Okay, so question 13 to 16 are from this passage that talks about Aztecs' view of history and how they recorded history. So it begins with the discussion that initially it seemed like Aztec histories, they did not have any chronological order, they were repetitive in nature, and they were covering the same thing multiple times. So this was the belief of the scholars earlier. Later, however, it was found that this was not some sort of a bug or some error. It was actually a feature. This is how Aztecs recorded their histories because they felt that any event can have multiple perspectives and they wanted to accommodate as many perspectives as they could. So that's why they devised a method in which multiple speakers stood up at different times and different moments and they narrated the event from their point of view, and then those viewpoints were recorded. Right. Then the author says that, however, does not mean that they did not believe in any truth. They just believed in accommodating multiple perspectives. They felt that, different perspectives can exist together. To truth, they said, was composite. That was their view. Okay, so, and history therefore comprised of such constituent truths, such different constituent truths, right? The new they were convinced didn't necessarily have to obliterate the old. So these were their views regarding history, and they were reflected in their recording of the history. 16. Which one of the following is true about Aztec histories would invalidate the purpose of the history teller as a director, as mentioned in the passage? Invalidate. That means which would actually make the history teller as a director redundant. Okay. So what was the history teller doing? If I go back and reread that part. So the history teller turned into a sort of director, bringing a series of speakers to the fore in order to speak. So it was the stories as a whole, when they were written down, seemed somewhat repetitive. So basically, his role was that he encouraged speakers to come to the fore so that they could speak, and then all those perspectives were recorded. That's why it seemed repetitive at the end. Okay. So now what would make this role redundant? A says of the stories that were told, the ones which aligned with the history teller's perspective were written down. This would right away make the role redundant because we are then not considering the multiple perspectives. No, if we are not considering the multiple perspectives, that means his role as a director who is allowing multiple people to speak and then recording their different accounts is now redundant. So this is the answer here. Let's look at B, C, and D. B, unlike modern societies equipped with devices to record oral stories, the Aztecs did not have any such devices. So how does that make the role of a director redundant? Not related. The Aztecs were a proud race and did not brook any dissent within the community. Again, how does that make the role of a director redundant? Unrelated. Aztec histories are long and confusing and often not chronologically narrated. So how does that make the role of a director, right? The history teller as the director, how does it make his role redundant? So all these seem to be unrelated. Okay, just one related option that actually mentions the word history teller. Okay, so A is the answer here. Easy question.